Hello and welcome back to my channel, Boozy Bookish Thoughts. I'm Justine, or Jay if you prefer, and welcome to my new video. So today, what are we doing today? We are drinking rum punch. I know I'm usually a wine girl, but I do enjoy cocktails too. And this is something I just a little whipped up for myself. It could probably do with a little more rum. But it is just pineapple orange juice, a little grenadine, and a little lime juice. It's perfect. It's usually a summery drink, but I mean, it's really warm here today, so. And we are talking about my February TBR. So, normally, before last year, I used to set 5 books per, like 5 print books and 5 audiobooks, and inevitably I would never read them and I'd feel like super disappointed, and my TBR videos would be super boring because it would always just be like, yeah, I'm carrying this over, yeah, I'm carrying this over, yeah, I'm carrying this over. So I'm like, that's boring, that's not great content, and it's also not good for my mental health because I always feel like I failed rather than feeling like I accomplished something. So instead, I'm cutting it down to 3 books per category. So 3 print books and 3 audiobooks. Now that's still kind of a lot. Really, I probably should only put 2, but I figured I still wanted my reading list to be aspirational. You know, I still wanted it to be a goal and to be a challenge to myself. But if I still finish 2 out of 3 books, it's still better. That's still a majority, as opposed to reading 2 out of 5 books. So you understand my logic. Now, before I can begin anything, I have a bit of a explanation to do about my audiobook and print book, about my first print book in the TBR. So I started Anne McCaffrey's Dragonflight, which is the first in the Dragon Riders of Bern series. I started Anne McCaffrey's Dragonflight on audiobook, but I hated the narrator. The narrator just sounded so flat, so boring. It sounded like he was reading from a textbook instead of this gorgeous fantasy world. And I was like, I can't do this. Or I was gonna power through it. But then the first trilogy of the Dragon Riders of Bern series went on sale on Amazon for like $1.99. And I was like, this is a sign. So I bought the hard copy. Not hard copy. I bought the Kindle book, the Kindle compilation. And I finished my print book, my most recent print book, which I will discuss in my January wrap-up, which was a real disappointment. Spoiler. But anyway, so I finished that print book, and then instead of moving on to a new print book, I'm switching my audiobook Dragonflight to the print book section and reading that as the first book of February, the Dragonflight, and that will be my first print book of February instead of reading it as an audiobook. So I have officially unsaved the audiobook from my Scribd, and I have lined up the Kindle version on my Kindle. After that, I will finally be getting to the last 2 books in Jim Butcher's long-running Dresden Files series, which is, I have said before, my favorite series. So those 2 books are Peace Talks and Battleground. Now they're technically continuations of each other. There was some criticism that it was a scam, that they sold it as 2 separate books when it really should have been 1 book, because Peace Talks ends on a major cliffhanger. It's not I feel like it was a complete book, but I see the validity of the criticism that say it's like only half a book. Especially since I started reading the first part of Battleground, and it basically jumps like straight into an action sequence. You know, there's no plot build up. So I understand the criticism. It's like a valid criticism, I think. That being said, I read Peace Talks a few years ago, and then I was trying to read Battleground, and then I got mental health distracted. Story of my life. I got distracted, and then so now I want to reread Peace Talks before I read Battleground. So both of those are on my reading list for February. Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey, and Peace Talks and Battleground by Jim Butcher. Now, what is... yeah. So after that, I have the new audiobooks. I'm so excited because like I said, I was super disappointed with the audiobook of Dragonflight, and I was suffering through it. I didn't even make it through like the first few chapters. I was so bored with it. And so I'm super excited. I just started the Anthony Horowitz's The Word is Murder, which is a book in his Hawthorne and Horowitz series. Now, Hawthorne and Horowitz, in this series, he writes a fictional version of himself, Anthony Horowitz, and he is the Watson to Hawthorne's Sherlock, or Hawthorne's Holmes. And he is, the fictional Horowitz is an author who gets drawn into an investigation being led by Hawthorne to act as his, I don't know if he's really his biographer or just his general, note taker, but I mean, he's an author. So, the two of them pair up to investigate a murder. And what's interesting about this murder is that this woman, this rich old lady, goes into a funeral parlor and asks to plan her own funeral. So she makes all the arrangements for her funeral, and then 6 hours later, she's murdered. So it's was this connected? Were these two things connected? I'm just literally at the start, so I don't know really. But it's proving to be very intriguing, and I'm super excited, and I'm really hoping that Anthony Horowitz is going to be a new favorite author. After that, I'm hoping around Valentine's Day, I'm hoping to breeze through the Anthony Horowitz book because it's only 9 hours. After that, I hope to be reading just in time for Valentine's Day. I hope to pick up Casey McQuiston's Red, White, and Royal Blue. Now, I do not have plans for Valentine's Day because my boyfriend is far away from me. He is in a different country, so we're long distance. So I will be spending Valentine's and Valentine's Day weekend working. But I hope to set aside a few hours to treat myself to, I don't know if I'm going to treat myself to some wine or maybe to a sinfully chocolatey drink, and just binge listen to Red, White, and Royal Blue. After that, I wasn't really sure what I was in the mood for. If I was in the mood for fantasy or in the mood for another detective story. And so I compromised and picked Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey. So Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey is like a fantasy meets noir novel. It's about a woman who doesn't have magic. She exists in a world where magic is real, but she does not have magic. But her twin sister is like super gifted and like a magic prodigy or something. But the two of them are estranged, and she's now a detective, and her sister teaches in a magical school. But then there is a murder in the magical school where her sister teaches, and she, as a detective, has to go investigate. And then it's like part magic story, part fantasy story, part detective story, and part like sisterly bonding. So I'm interested. This has been on my TBR for a little bit of a while, but I've never gotten around to prioritizing it. So let's see if I will fit it into February. I will be having a bunch of travel this February, so hopefully I will have some time to sit at airports and binge listen, or in airplanes to listen, or on bus trips. We're not sure yet where we're traveling to. It's gonna be a very crazy first quarter at work, so yeah. So those are my books for February. Those are my print books and my audiobooks. I hope that you found this interesting. Let me know down in the comments what books you're planning to read this February. In case you didn't notice, I have 2 books from my priority list on my TBR for February. That's Battleground and Red, White, and Royal Blue. Both of those books are on my priority list, and I hope to tackle them this month, both this month, because I didn't read one in January, so I hope to tackle 2 of them in February. That's it. Stay tuned on Friday for my January wrap up, and we will talk about the 30 books I read in January. In the meantime, cheers!